Good afternoon, everyone. This is Stephenetta Harmon. I am with the MSR, Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder, and today, welcome to this edition of MSR Forefront. We have on with us Anika Robbins, founder, creator, executive director of Black Votes Matter Minnesota, and all around activist and community organizer. So thank you. How are you today?
I'm well, sis. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well as well. Let
It's
me just
been
steady
one,
my
huh?
phone. So, for those who don't know, we are going to be talking today about voting. 2020 elections are literally Tuesday. Seems like
Mhm.
a world away, but they're just next week. Um, and I'm going to tell you right now, the way the spirit has been moving, it's been a battle to vote. It felt like it was a battle when I went to go vote on
Oh no.
yeah, it felt like it was a battle because I did, early voting on
Yeah.
Tuesday. It felt like I was going to war.
Oh,
And
I.
even
Yeah.
and even this conversation right now, like what it took to get us on this call right this moment to
Yes.
have this to engage with our people, it's
Yes.
look, this is a battle. And
It-
that's what I want us to talk about today is what this 2020 elections are. Folks are like, what does this mean, this voting block? Did you mean K? And I'm like, no, it's BLOC, because we are a group in Minnesota. Black Minnesotans are a group um, of voting constituents
That's
that
right.
all of the elected officials are trying to get at right now, because they need to be able to address key things in our environment, related to race, related to culture, related to finances, related to housing, related to employment, related to everything.
Yes.
Just like everything. So we are a true voting block right now.
That's
You don't
right.
got to be Democratic or a Democrat or a Republican to be in this voting block, because our voices really, truly matter right now. And so, can you tell me what work you were doing as we come up to Tuesday, November 3rd,
Yeah.
with Black Votes Matter Minnesota, to just in general with this election?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's always nice to come back home to the spokesman and kick it with my girl, Stephenetta. We go way back, as we like to say,
Yes.
like 8 tracks. But this is definitely a critical election year, and definitely it is one where Black people want to definitely tune in and engage full throttle, right? This is definitely the year to be fully aware of what the issues are, and then who are the leaders, who are the players, and then who's going to be the one to advance the Black agenda, right? We're hearing that
Mhm.
term a lot, and so, for the first time, really, in many years, anything Black has really been pushed to the forefront in the wake of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and several others, the Jamar Clarks, the Philando Castilles, so we've been building up to this. And, things have been swept under the rug, and the people are saying it's enough. We can't
Mhm.
continue to kind of breeze past these things or wait for them to blow over. We need change, and we need change now. The world is watching and looking to see what Minneapolis is going to do with its police brutality issues. The world wants to
Mhm.
see, because there's several human and civil rights violations right now. Um, I also serve on, the Civil Rights Commission. I chair that commission, and we formed a policing and civil rights task force, and we're looking at that, and we're funneling through years and stories of
Mhm.
experiences that people have had with Minneapolis Police Department. So that's on the ballot. Education is on the ballot. There are several candidates of color, over 40 Black candidates who are running for office across the state of Minnesota. So people
Mhm.
want fundamental change all around. And so this is an exciting time. I don't think we've been this excited since the Obama election. So it's
Wow.
definitely a critical time. We're seeing record turnout numbers. Already 66 million Americans have voted. So it's
Right.
time to plug in and engage.
Okay. Okay. So thinking about let's just one piece right here. 66 million Americans have voted, right? This is early voting. So these are the people who are already engaged, ready to move forward, ready to have these conversations.
Mhm.
What about the people who, for some reason, are undecided? What about the people who, right now, are just like, well, my vote doesn't matter. It doesn't count, so I'm not going to go.
At this point, I think that we've heard that a lot before.
Mhm.
In our work, we conduct a very rigorous grassroots voter engagement outreach program. I mean, we beat the pavement to death, right? So we,
Right.
we register people to vote, and we hear these things all the time. But to say now that your vote doesn't matter when in the age of all of this increased voter suppression, we've seen
Hmm.
padlocked mailboxes. We're seeing where certain states like Kentucky, Texas, and other places have only allowed for a single ballot drop location or a single place for people to go. And we know that those are in, Black communities. So there's clearly a concerted effort agenda to hinder Black
Right.
people from voting. So that alone should let you know that your vote matters. That
Hmm.
alone should let you know. And because people understand that voting is power, and there are certain
Right.
folks who don't want to relinquish that power. And so that should tell you in of itself that your vote does matter. Now, what I do understand is that people often don't understand the process, right? They don't understand.
Okay.
Sometimes we'll get people to say, "Well, did I just voted? There's another election. Who's running now? Ballot question." No, my God, and I get it. I get it, and that just speaks to a lack of civic engagement, right? A lack of civic
Hmm.
education. And we know that
Right.
that kind of been taken out of the schools, and so we're filling that gap by providing grassroots voter education. We have our website, a commercial, and a voter guide because people simply don't understand, and that's okay. But now, if you choose to remain in lack of, in ignorance or lack of awareness of the process when there's such an abundance of information, then that's a choice that you're
Hmm.
making. But at this time there's a plethora of information, and people, it behooves everyone to research those candidates, and then not just vote, but then after the election stay engaged, hold those leaders accountable. The laws and leaders
Hmm.
voted in by the people that show up. So if you don't show up, you're leaving your power on the table, and you're basically allowing for other people to make decisions about you, for you, without you.
Mm. Um, so let's even think about that. You're talking about people who we're thinking about, when you said, wait, there's another election, like we just did that.
Yeah.
And we're talking a lot right now about the presidential election.
Yes.
But
Yes.
there are so many local offices that are going to impact what happens in Minnesota,
That's
Senate,
right. That's right. That's right.
representatives. I mean, it's Tuesday. If they haven't voted early,
Yeah.
and if they haven't gotten a mail in ballot, um, Tuesday, what can they do between now and then? Because you can vote on the day of elections in
You sure
Minnesota. You
can.
can register on the day of, y'all. So if you didn't register yet, you can still register. Let's be clear about that.
Yes.
What do they need to look at now in terms of like who are like what are some key races that they should be looking at? Because yeah, they know who they vote, and maybe if they vote, who they
Right.
voting for
Right.
president. What
Right.
about state, the other offices? What should they be looking
Absolutely. So, in Minnesota, some of the other races are definitely U.S. reps,
at? Hmm.
Senate, school board, county commission.
Hmm.
This is the odd year. Yeah, this is the odd year of county commission. I'm going to
Hmm.
talk a little bit about what each of those roles do, right?
Oh,
So,
yes, yes, yes.
so
Senate. Let's go Senate.
what's that?
Let's do with the Senate because they're like, we don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, so these folks, at the federal level, right? So we have our state legislator, and then we have our federal
Hmm.
representatives. And it's really all about advocating and lobbying for resources to come to our state. It is the reason why participating in the census was critically important. The
Hmm.
census matters because the amount of funding that a state gets, resources around housing, affordable housing, SNAP, food programs, support for our neighbors who are homeless. All of these things are funded through federal dollars. And we have to thank our federal representatives for marshaling resources to our state that way. Now, if our population starts to drop, not only do we lose that federal representative, but the dollars that come with that seat. So then our communities then are under resourced and they don't have the support that they need, right? So that's that seat. The county commissions, once funding comes down from a state level, federal level, then it's distributed across counties, right? And then municipal, city.
Mm-hmm.
The county, so Hennepin County, right? Largest county in Minnesota, over 1 million people live here. But the county helps with housing, education, property, hospitals, jails, county attorney, county sheriff, right? You're starting to see
emergency resources,
which have been, people have been heavily relying on now in this era of COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
The disbursement of CARES Act funding to support businesses, to support families. Millions of Americans and hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans have filed for unemployment. So all of those, sometimes we get things for free. We don't really understand how we got it free. And so a lot of those resources, they're coming down to us, right? And we're just like, well, government's providing. Well, there's this process for it. And so the representatives that you elect or don't elect, whether or not they believe that your issues matter, that's going to be what determines and dictates how the funding is allocated, right? So it's very important to follow those things. And then, of course, you have the mayors, city council, they make local level decisions. So this is really, like I said, leaders and laws are made by people who show up. So if you're not showing up and you're like, they won't let us, who's they? Because really no one's stopping you from engaging, right?
Right.
And even though we're hearing these horror stories around the state, in Minnesota, I have to applaud our Secretary of State, our county officials, our local, elections officials. They've really gone to bat to make sure that there is free, safe, and secure elections in our state. They've planned, even with contingencies around COVID-19. In spite of COVID-19, we still have several early voting locations, and we have several ballot drop locations, right? But all of that was decided on by the county board, right? And the city council, and the funding to support those operations. So that's why I say it's important for us to educate ourselves on these processes so we understand, because depending on who you choose to represent you, they will either be working in your best interest or working against them. So that's why it's important to vote. That's why it's important to get involved. And so you have the option to do the ballot drop off, or you can wait until election day and vote
Tuesday.
November 3rd.
Tuesday.
Yes.
So let's see. We have someone who chimed in on comments. Okay. Great follow-up question right now is, so we know that we're supposed to participate and vote for these local elections. Where do we go to find out more about who's running locally? Where, about those school board members or the judges that are up? How do we find out more about that?
BlackVotesMatterMN.com. So we have, we published a 44-page voter guide. We are nonpartisan. Yes, we're nonpartisan, meaning that we don't take sides. So our presentation of the candidates, because we basically assemble side-by-side comparisons of the candidates, the Republicans, the Democrats, the marijuana party, the Green Party. So people can make an informed decision based on what each candidate has said that they're running on, the platform that they stated. So you can go there to see those kinds of analysis, right? There's also 2 referendums on the ballot. So there's something else you can read up on. But then if you want to know maybe you're in Duluth, right? So you might be in some other area, but we have covered, many of the state rep seats, many of the mayoral races, including West St.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, Edina, Woodbury, Minneapolis, and St. Paul, of course. But if you just need to know who your representative, you live in Duluth or St. Cloud, then you would go to mnvotes.org or the sos.state.mn.us. That's the
That was
Minnesota.
long.
I think that's why they
Please,
came
we're
up with
gonna
that
do
word.
Minnesota votes.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is new. 2 years ago, we was just doing dot, dot,
Yes.
yeah. But it won't give you the comparisons, but that's a great place to go to
Mm-hmm.
find out your polling location. It's also going to be how you find out if your polling location is open, because there
Okay.
have been some closures, some changes. So
Okay.
I encourage everybody, if you don't leave nothing, take nothing away from this conversation, be sure to research your regular polling location to make sure that it's still operational before you go, right? But
Yeah.
find out who all the candidates are across the state, because there's school board, there's park, there is county commission, of course, and of course the presidential vice president, and then there's a few other seats all around the state. Every city is having some form of election.
Okay. And what's great about MinnesotaVotes.org, really quickly, is it's in multiple languages. So if you have someone whose native language is not English, you can pull all that up. Now, do either of these sites have a sample ballot? Because that helps when you can kind of see like the name, like, okay, who am I?
Yeah, no, we don't have it because it varies from state to state. From city
Okay.
to city, right? So the Minneapolis ballot is not going to look like the ballot in Brooklyn Park or in
Right.
Edina or in St. Paul. And so for that, you definitely want to go to the minvotes.org, because they will have
Hmm.
that, and they'll have it for the entire state because that's their job.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. She's like, look, that's the job. Okay. So, but I mean, that's super important, because what
Yeah,
happens is people, like, they know for sure that they're going to vote. Like, I know I'm going to vote for the president, whoever that is. And
right.
then you pull up and you're like, well, who the
Who are
heck?
these people?
Who? I'm sorry to this man. I don't know this man. Like, literally,
Yeah,
that's been the conversation. Even I've had offline with folks when they're like, yeah, I went to go vote. And then there was some people here. And then if they were just like, and, bless their hearts, they were just like, I just voted for the black sounding names. And I'm like, please don't do that. Please don't ever do that again. Please, like, literally. And these are grown, like, these are educators that I spoke with. Do you know how tough that was to hear that there was someone who was educating teachers is like, look, ma, I didn't know. I got there, and why didn't you share? I'm like, yo, you can get a sample ballot. Like, you
yeah.
can go to certain places, and at least, if nothing else, there's a picture and the person's name and what their
It's like the
affiliation
Chris
is.
Rock movie, Vote for Johnson, right? I don't know if you remember that movie, but anyway, yeah, it's that point.
That's exactly how it feels, right? Oh my goodness, that's exactly how it feels. Like, so
So
this
we
is
didn't
so good
publish
to.
judges. Yeah, we didn't publish judges. But there are certain options for that. We do direct people to where they can find out information, because there's a ton of judges. And the
Yes,
reality is that
yes.
judges are the last stop in the criminal justice system, right? Or any kind of the judiciary. And it's been difficult. And this is the reason why a lot of times people will stay in the same seat for generations, because first, people don't know that those seats are electable. So I always use the example of the county attorney. A lot of people don't know that the county attorney and the county sheriff are elected seats. And so
Mm,
these are just examples of things that we need to, be up on and make sure that we research them. What is their sentencing record? Is it disproportionately African American or Latinx? Um, are they, are some of the other seats, have they been responsive to the needs of community? So those are, because sometimes people, well,
mm,
what am I voting for? We never really tell people what to vote for, but the beauty of our guide is we listed out some of the key issues, and the main universal issues are homelessness, right? Affordable health
mm-hmm,
care, reparations, you know,
mm-hmm.
Resources for business owners. We know that Black women are the fastest growing segment of new business startups. So where are the resources to support
Because
them?
we're the least funded, 0.000 something percent.
Yes, yes,
Yahoo, yeah. So it's really it's tough out here. It's
it
really tough in these streets, and we're complaining, and we're looking. We're it's this place where we're looking for resources, we're looking for access, we're looking for visibility, representation, and now we, particularly in Minnesota, have the opportunity to affect and impact change that extends beyond the next 2 years or the next 4 years
right.
by pulling in the judges. A lot of times when you vote for judges, y'all, it's one person name on there. They are running unopposed. Like you could literally have started a grassroots Mickey Mouse campaign and got folks on.
Yeah.
So
And people
it's
are writing in. More and more people
yes.
are starting to write in, so depending on how you feel about it, but it also speaks to the need for communities to start really identifying, and I don't want to say grooming, but how do
Yeah,
we
we should
prep,
be grooming.
yeah, how do we
I'll
prep the
say it.
next generation or leaders to run for office? And that is something that we're keenly, interested in. We're invested in that. We have an ambassador program for youth and adults, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times it's really just that no one has issued the invitation for us to be involved in these processes. And so I'm here to
Oh.
say today that you have every right to activate and to participate in these systems, in government, in community, or any other form of civic participation, because you're part of the community, you're paying taxes, your tax dollars go to pay for the salaries of elected
Mm-hmm.
officials. So you should want to have a say because you have a vested interest in these processes. So I encourage everyone to consider it or support the candidates that are running that you feel support your issues.
And then you said there was 40 black folks, 40 people of well, just black. I know, so there's even
Oh,
more
there's
of
more.
color.
Oh, yeah, there's
Do you
more
know what
people.
I'm saying? When we pull in our, our Hmong and our Asian populations and
Yes,
like everybody else, I know that number gets even bigger. But
absolutely.
just particularly 40 black, and they're mostly women.
Mostly
Let's
women.
be mostly women. Like I saw that card of
Yeah,
all these just beautiful brown, black, strong women leaders who have been in the community, who have already been working, who have been answering phones, showing up,
yeah,
volunteering, showing up, dropping off masks. Like be very clear and look, y'all. There are people who are running who are out in the community right now. When COVID hit, they were there at the local places to bring their resources and efforts. They're volunteering.
that's
You
right.
want to vote for people, and I don't know who you should vote for. We can't tell you that.
You
But
can't.
if you are going to vote, look at who is out and showing up for you,
Yeah,
who is speaking to you, who is not just showing up when it's time for an election. And
that's
that's
right.
something that's super important. Like
Yeah,
if you're looking on a ballot and you see an incumbent meaning someone who's been in office and you don't recognize their name, that's a problem.
just a little.
That's just a small. You don't recognize it. So where they been at these at least 2 years, if not
Right,
4 years.
right.
So think about that. I'm serious. If you're on here right now, ask a few questions. Let us know, like, what is on your mind when it comes to voting on Tuesday. Are you excited? Are you ready for this? Have you already voted? Um, these are things that we really want to engage in. Especially, we have Black Votes Matter right now. They're out in the streets, they're on the pavement, in the masks and everything. If you're on Facebook, you see the images.
Right.
This is not sexy work, y'all. This is not
No, it's
this ain't photo op work. This
no.
isn't for this is not for popular vote.
That's
This
right.
is for posterity. This is for our livelihood. So please let's talk about this, the power of voting. Like one vote really make that much of a difference?
Listen, there have been cases, even here in Minnesota, I think the Al Franken race, where, just by a matter of votes, I mean, there have been races in Michigan where people have won or lost by 6 votes. So when people
Hmm.
say, oh, my vote doesn't matter, it matters, I mean, it mattered in Georgia, right? It mattered in Florida. I mean, but I'm so proud of us, right? I mean, when I see the lines of people, I'm heartbroken, but I'm so inspired at the same time, seeing
Hmm.
all of our brothers and sisters stand in line around the country And so it lets me know that, something has clicked. People recognize what's at stake, and how could they not? I mean, when, our country has been polarized in a constant stream of negativity and violence, and people want change. They want to return to normalcy. I don't think we're going to get that. But I think that we can get back to some amount of decency, order, depending. But that's all going to be determined by the voter turnout. So I encourage everyone to get out and vote. Now, you could vote early, right? And then you could do the ballot drop. They are not the same. I do want to clarify that. So you can't like pre-fill out the ballot and then go drop it off. There's just the drop off option for that. You can't take it to an early vote center, is what I should say. If you're going to an early vote center, it means you're going there and you're filling out the application on the spot and then submitting it there. And then I suspect that, vast majority of other folks are waiting. For some people, it's a tradition to vote on election day. And so I know that a lot of folks are waiting for that. But I wouldn't wait to mail your ballot. In fact, if you haven't mailed it in by now, I would say go vote in person.
Okay, so can I go vote in person? So this is the thing. So if I'm one of those people who's like, yo, I'm gonna get a mail-in ballot, right? I got a mail-in ballot. Mm-hmm. They're telling me it's going to take up to a week to deliver. We see that there's all these court referendums right now if they're going to count my vote, even though it was already in a mailbox. It's not my fault USPS didn't deliver on time, right? But what do I do with that? So I have to take this to a drop-off box, or can I take this to where other people are voting?
You can take it to a drop-off box if you're just going to drop it. But if you're going and actually filling out the form, then you should go to an early voting center.
And I can take my ballot with me there?
No, not to.
Okay, so if I got a mail-in ballot, let me be very clear. So if I got a mail-in ballot, the only place I can take that to is that drop-off box.
Yes, or
don't go nowhere else.
There's two separate ones, and we clarify this in our guide because when I was talking, because we work routinely with our elections, both Hennepin, Ramsey County, whatever. And I'm like, say what now? So. Because it's confusing. And I have, I've been doing this work of cultural translation and even just translating government speak to just everyday speak, right? Like consulting. And I'm like, listen, guys, the process is already complicated. You're assuming people understand how these things even work in the first place. They don't. Not even the most educated amongst us understand it still. So we need to be explicit in all these extra, so in the guide, because really there was like, okay, these locations are open until October 26th. And then on October 27th, I'm like, what? So I say that to say, pick up our guide. It's at any of your corner store places. It's online at, Black Votes Matter MN. And also you could talk to your city elections office or your county elections office to get that clarification. I think there's 4 early vote centers happening in the Twin Cities. And then Ramsey County had some in St. Paul and surrounding areas as well. But the key is, look, that's why we keep telling people, research before you go. Be very clear. This is a pandemic. There have been minor changes, right? Some of your regular spots may not be available. And no, you cannot take your pre-completed ballot to an early vote center. You can only take it to a ballot drop box or site.
Okay.
Two different things.
So let me just repeat that, y'all tuning in right now. This is very, very important because I know a lot of people who got their mail-in ballot and are stressed because they don't think it will be mailed in. Don't mail it in. It won't make it on time. We already know this. Just to be clear. I don't care what they're telling you. Drop it off at a drop box, but it has to be a drop box for your mail-in ballots. So go online, Minnesota Votes, MNVOTES.org, and you can find that location on where you do that. So that is MNVOTES.org, and you can find where you drop off your mail-in ballot. You can also find the location to where you can early vote. When does early vote end?
November 2nd.
You can vote early up until Monday, y'all. So, and then For
You
some
can
reason,
vote
if
on
you
them.
still haven't voted and you just want to go in line to go in line to go in line on Tuesday, people, the power of your vote is so important. If
Yes.
you have never ever, I just put it this way, we have a president who won the last election not by popular vote but by electoral votes. So he was able to win because he won certain battleground states. And Minnesota is a battleground state. Minnesota is a battleground state. Minnesota is a battleground state. So whoever you are voting for, trust that Minnesota is a battleground state. So you want to know and show up for your people, for the community, for the state, on who you want to represent you, your voice, who you want to see around the world, who you want to see in your state and house, in the state legislature, on your school board. I mean, it is so important that you get up, because you cannot complain in 2021. If you are complaining about who's in office, is your fault. Okay, that I'm gonna get off my soapbox on this one. I'm
I
gonna get off my soapbox,
I feel
but
you.
it's, I
It's
know this
real.
is MSR forefront, but this is real, y'all. This is community information and news. If you have something to tap in and join in and say, please share it. For you, Anika, I know I've had you on for a little bit here. What is the most important thing that we should be considering right now?
You know, elections have consequences, and um, we have to show up. So much is at stake. Decisions from elections have far reaching impact for
Mm-hmm,
years to come. So like the census, it happens every 10 years, but it influences decision making. So like this 2020 census, right away in 2021, we're going to be redistricting based on our population, right? And then
mm-hmm.
who's going to rule how many seats for city council, all of it. So
Wow.
I can't begin to stress enough how important it is. You know, African Americans, communities of color are in the top percentile of almost every socioeconomic disparity, from housing disparities, health disparities, financial disparity, unemployment.
Mm-hmm,
But that's also commensurate with our degree of participation, right? Historically, voter turnout in communities of color is low.
mm-hmm,
Historically, census response rates in historically undercounted communities is low. In Minneapolis, when just a few extra percentage points, we saw our city council change. It became more diverse. It is more now reflective of the diverse community that we have. 3 African American leaders, Latinx, 2 transgender. Voting does that. And then it means that you have
yes.
people in place who have your same shared lived experience. They may have gone through the same struggles as you, versus someone who maybe lives out in the burbs or, up in the Iron Range, and they don't have that same shared experience. So that's why we vote. We vote to put people in place who can advocate on our behalf, who can do the work that we're not able to do, and make decisions and make sure that our communities get resources. It means the difference of the quality of education that our kids get. It means safe streets. It means getting the streets plowed when it snows, right? And I mean, all the less sexy and alarmist stuff, right?
Mm-hmm,
But bridges, if you're receiving benefits from the government, like all of those things are made possible because of how we vote. And
mm,
so we have a right, I talk about our heritage, right? Like we have paid the price in blood to be able to have these rights. We should not
mm-hmm.
squander our legacy and the investment that our ancestors paid forward for us. And we should also, as stewards, and as we are also stepping into ancestor and elderhood, we want to make sure that we lay a solid foundation for our future generations. When
Mm-hmm.
I was younger, when we was kicking it, back in the day, we weren't really civically engaged, and we thought that our elders did it. Like we didn't have to do that battle. But the thing
Mm-hmm.
is that politics, government, decision making, you don't ever want to take your hand off the steering wheel. You don't ever want to take your eye off the prize. It is something that we constantly have to fight for. I'm standing on the shoulders of Congressman John Lewis, C.T. Vivian, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, all of these people, right? Because they devoted their entire lives, their entire careers fighting for many of the freedoms that we enjoy today. As a woman, being able to own property without getting my husband's permission, being
See, see,
being able
see.
to have jobs. I could go down the list. Women's reproductive rights are on the ballot. Okay, environmental protection, clean, safe water is on the ballot. There are children still in cages at the
Mm,
Mexico-U.S. border. There are homeless people living in all of our beautiful parks across the metro because they don't
mm-hmm.
have housing. So it's real out here. And if you wait until it happens to you personally,
It's too
until
late.
your cousin or your brother or your father gets killed by police, it's too late. So we need to take an active interest and we have to be involved. It starts with voting, but it doesn't end there. And then we're kicking up our efforts to help people understand how to engage, because that's a gap too. And we recognize.
Okay.
So we'll meet people where they are, but we gotta claim it. We gotta reclaim all our time, all our power.
That's it right now. So I'm looking, if I'm watching right now and I'm still for some reason haven't voted, this is another wake up call to participate. You have until Tuesday, November 3rd, the day of the elections, to vote. You can connect with blackvotesmatterminnesota.com, which is blackvotesmattermn.com, for a complete voting guide. For ways to get involved, to connect with people who can even answer basic questions. Like you were trying to figure out between this and this person, and you don't really know what this term means.
Yeah.
And that's important because we can't act like we know everything. Because if we show up at the poll and don't know,
Yeah, no, we get calls all the time. I get inbox messages and I'm grateful. People like, I know I should know better. I may miss that part in school. No shame in not knowing. And I would never
right?
make anybody who doesn't know who reaches out. It's not about that. If you knew that you could reach out to me or any of my comrades for information, I'm grateful for that. Please don't ever stop, because not knowing is the problem. So
Mm.
we're here to help and we're glad to do it.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you. Real quick, I got to do some Minnesota spokesman recorder housekeeping. Real quick here, I just want to thank everyone who has tuned in. Again, I'm Stephenetta Harmon with the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder. This edition of the MSR Forefront has been sponsored in part by the Minnesota Foundation Funds for Safer Communities. And the MSR Forefront is proud to be on the front lines with the Minnesota Foundation to support efforts to prevent violence, Minneapolis Foundation, address systemic inequities, and heal individuals and families. So that is where we are today. I just want to say thank you for those who have tuned in. And this is the Minneapolis Foundation. I'm sorry, I just read what I was given here, but we are on here. And we're having this good community conversation right now. So I'm very thankful for having Anika on here with me to be able to share this information, to be able to engage with the community. Y'all, it's 2020 elections. We're going to be back with 2022 elections, 2024 elections. Like, this is not a game, and it's not just about the president that's up for grabs. It's our whole entire country. And Minnesota is a battleground state. And you have the opportunity right now to affect and impact change that goes beyond today, tomorrow, and the next generation. So we are hoping that you participate in whatever ways that you can. And literally, that's it. We will never tell you who to vote for. We can't even force you to vote, but we just encourage you and implore you to look at your ancestors and look at the people who are out in the streets marching today, and to understand why they are out there and how you can be a part of the community and be a part of this voting bloc, BLOC, and be able to speak up for ourselves as a community. So that's it. Anika, is there anything else that you would like to add with our readers or viewers?
No, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder, to you,
Mm-hmm.
Stephenetta, for all your work and advocacy. And thank you for this opportunity to engage with the community. And please go out and vote.
Yes, thank you all. Again, BlackVotesMatterMN.com with any questions. This is Anika Robbins right here. She is a key resource in Minnesota, a very key resource for giving you just plain factual information. We don't want the rhetoric, so we just want that plain factual information. So again,
Right.
thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the MSR Forefront.